We've all heard the phrase, food is love. But for African Americans throughout history, food was also a story. It was a language spoken in the kitchen, a tradition passed down not through cookbooks, but through the rhythm of a mother's hands and the laughter around the table. Today, we continue our journey into the forgotten heart of that culinary history, exploring recipes that tell us about community, celebration, and resilience. These are the dishes that brought people together, whether for a Saturday night gathering or just a simple, nourishing meal. 1. Hog's head cheese. First on our list is a dish that speaks volumes about resourcefulness: hog's head cheese. The name might sound off-putting, but let me assure you, this was a culinary triumph. Historically, after a hog was butchered, every single part was used. The head, a part often discarded in modern times, was a prized component. It was slow-simmered for hours until the meat was incredibly tender, practically falling off the bone. The meat was then meticulously picked, seasoned with a blend of savory spices, and combined with a portion of the rich, gelatinous broth created during the simmering process. This mixture was then pressed firmly into a loaf pan or mold. As it chilled, the natural gelatin solidified, creating a dense, savory terrine that could be sliced and served cold. Hog's head cheese was a breakfast or lunch staple, often eaten with crackers or freshly baked bread. It stands as a powerful testament to the skill and tradition of maximizing every resource to nourish a family and community. 2. Pantoute hash. This next dish is the ultimate example of making it new. Pan-toasted hash was born from the necessity of using every last bit of a meal. After a big Sunday dinner, no leftover was safe. Bits of roasted meat, cooked potatoes, and leftover vegetables were all diced and tossed into a well-seasoned cast-iron skillet. The name itself hints at its common use: toted, from the pan to a lunch pail for a day's work. This wasn't just about avoiding waste. It was about creating a new, delicious meal entirely. Frying the ingredients together in a skillet gave the hash a wonderful, crispy texture and a rich, concentrated flavor distinct from the original dishes. This was a hearty, satisfying meal that transformed yesterday's remnants into today's nourishment, all with a simple, brilliant technique. 3. Sweet potato pone. Before there was sweet potato pie, there was sweet potato pone. This isn't a pie with a crust, but a dense, pudding-like dish where the sweet potato truly shines. The recipe is a beautiful blend of simplicity and flavor. Fresh sweet potatoes were grated and mixed with sorghum molasses, a common, rich sweetener, along with spices like cinnamon, nutmeg, and a touch of ginger. The mixture was then baked in a pan until it formed a moist, golden brown loaf. Pone was less formal than a pie and was often a staple at family gatherings, serving as a dessert or a rich, filling snack. It is a precursor to the modern sweet potato pie, representing a time when home cooks relied on the natural sweetness of ingredients and simple preparation methods to create truly comforting and memorable food. 4. Molasses gingerbread. This isn't your average gingerbread man. Molasses gingerbread was a dark, spicy, and incredibly dense cake, far removed from the fluffy versions we see today. The key ingredient was sorghum molasses, which gave the bread its deep, almost black color and a complex, earthy sweetness. The gingerbread was heavily spiced with ginger, cloves, and cinnamon, creating a powerful aroma and a warming, fiery taste. Its hearty texture made it an ideal dessert or a satisfying source of energy for a long day of work. This recipe is more than just a sweet treat. It's a taste of history, directly connected to the agricultural heritage and the ingenuity of using widely available crops to create nourishing and flavorful food. 5. Stewed pig ears. In the spirit of using every part of the animal, we come to a dish that might surprise you: stewed pig ears. While this might seem unconventional today, it was a testament to the no-waste ethos that defined so much of African American cooking. The ears were meticulously cleaned and then slow-simmered in a pot with onions, bell peppers, and other seasonings until they reached an incredible tenderness. The cartilage softens to a jelly-like consistency, while the surrounding meat becomes succulent and full of flavor. This dish was an inexpensive yet deeply satisfying meal, prized for its unique texture and the rich broth it created. It represents a form of culinary wisdom that has been largely forgotten: the art of transforming less prized cuts into a delicious, nourishing meal. 6. Rabbit and dumplings. We've all heard of chicken and dumplings, but for generations, the true Southern classic was rabbit and dumplings. Rabbit was a common and easily hunted game animal, making it an accessible protein source. In this comforting, rustic stew, the rabbit was slow cooked until the meat was tender enough to fall off the bone. Simple, fluffy dumplings, made from flour and a bit of lard, were then dropped into the pot to simmer. They absorbed the rich, savory broth, becoming soft and perfect complements to the delicate rabbit meat. This dish is a beautiful expression of a culture's connection to the land and a tradition of transforming foraged food into a heartfelt, communal meal perfect for a family gathering on a cold day. 7. Sorghum molasses bread. Just as with gingerbread, sorghum was a key ingredient in many breads. Sorghum molasses bread was a slightly sweet, dark bread that was a staple in many households. It was hearty and dense, perfect for sopping up gravy or simply eating on its own. It's a testament to the ingenuity of using locally available crops to create nourishing and delicious food. A simple loaf that was a lifeline for many. 8. Pot liquor. This next one is less of a food and more of a tradition. Pot liquor is the nutrient-rich, flavorful broth left in the pot after cooking a batch of greens, like collard greens or turnip greens. It was too precious to waste. Filled with vitamins and minerals, this liquid was often served alongside the greens, and people would use their cornbread to sop it up. This tradition of liquor, or pot liquor, shows how every bit of a meal was treasured. It's a simple but powerful reminder of the value placed on nourishment and health, even in the toughest of times. 9. Pepper pot soup. Our final dish today takes us to Philadelphia. Pepper pot soup is a spicy, thick soup with a rich history. Originally made from tripe and other beef parts, this soup was a specialty of both free and enslaved African Americans in the city. The spiciness from the black pepper and other seasonings not only gave it a kick, but also helped to preserve the ingredients. It was a true comfort food, a warm and hearty bowl that helped people get through cold winters. It's a perfect example of a dish that transcended class and culture, becoming a beloved part of a city's culinary identity. 10. Chitterlings, chitlins. Now we come to a dish that is perhaps one of the most powerful symbols of survival and resilience: chitterlings, or chitlins. For generations, this dish was a staple of Black culture. Born from a history of being given the less desirable cuts of meat. The small intestines of a pig were meticulously cleaned and then slow simmered in a pot for hours, often with onions, garlic, and vinegar to tenderize them and add flavor. The preparation was a communal event, a way to pass down a tradition from one generation to the next. While the smell of them cooking can be quite strong, the resulting dish was a savory, tender delicacy. Chitterlings are a testament to the ability to take what others considered scraps and transform them into a cherished and celebrated part of a culinary heritage. 11. Cracklin' cornbread. Cracklin' cornbread was more than just food. It was a memory baked into every Southern kitchen. Families would save the crispy bits from rendering meat and fold them into golden cornmeal batter, creating a bread that was both hearty and flavorful. Fresh from the oven, it carried a smoky crunch in every bite, a texture that set it apart from ordinary cornbread. For many grandparents, this wasn't just supper bread. It was a celebration of thrift, resourcefulness, and family gatherings around the table. Served with beans, greens, or simply a pat of butter, it stood as a symbol of making the most of what was available. Today, crackling cornbread recalls the laughter of crowded kitchens, the smell of cast-iron skillets, and the rhythm of hands working dough. It is nostalgia you can taste, a reminder of resilience, love, and the creativity of African American cooking traditions. 12. Hoe cake. This is a dish with a name that tells its entire story. The hoe cake was the ultimate survival food, a simple cornmeal flatbread that was a staple for field workers and enslaved people. The name comes from the fact that it was originally cooked on a garden hoe, placed directly over an open fire. Think about that for a moment. It was a meal made without a pan, just with a tool of the trade. The batter was just cornmeal, water, and salt, mixed by hand and patted into a thin cake. It was a food of pure necessity, but it was also a food of community. Hoe cakes were shared on the fly, a quick, filling meal that could be made anywhere, connecting people through the simple act of breaking bread together under the sun. 13. Frogmore stew. Our next recipe takes us to the Gullah Geechee communities of the Low Country, where frogmore stew was the star of every summer gathering. Despite the name, this stew contains no frogs. It's a seafood boil that was a highlight of community parties, where families would gather to celebrate and eat together. A giant pot was filled with shrimp, smoked sausage, corn on the cob, and potatoes, all simmered with a generous amount of seasoning. This wasn't a dish for one or two people. It was a communal feast, a celebration of the abundant gifts of the sea and the land. Making frogmore stew was an event in itself, with everyone helping to peel shrimp and shuck corn, turning a simple meal into a joyous, memorable party. 14. Gumbo filet. Gumbo is an iconic dish today, but its history is a story of incredible innovation. While we often think of gumbo thickened with okra, early versions, particularly those made by African Americans and Native Americans, used something entirely different. Gumbo filet. This powder, made from dried and ground sassafras leaves, was used to thicken the stew and give it a unique, earthy flavor. The use of filet was an ingenious solution to a cooking problem, allowing for a rich, hearty stew even when okra wasn't in season. In many homes, the decision to use okra or filet was a family tradition passed down through the generations, a small but powerful choice that connected them to their culinary heritage. 15. Sweet potato biscuits. Biscuits were a Southern staple, but enslaved and free African American cooks elevated them with a simple, brilliant addition: the sweet potato. Sweet potato biscuits were often a Sunday morning treat, a way to make breakfast extra special. The mashed sweet potatoes were mixed into the biscuit dough, giving it a beautiful golden color and a subtle, earthy sweetness. The result was a biscuit that was not only incredibly soft and flaky, but also moist and flavorful, a perfect match for a dollop of butter or molasses. This was more than just a recipe. It was a quiet act of creativity, a small way to transform the ordinary into something truly extraordinary. 16. Field pea stew. This is a dish that speaks to the power of community and the resourcefulness of the kitchen. Field pea stew was the definition of a hearty, comforting meal. Field peas, a type of cowpea, were plentiful, easy to grow, and a staple crop. A big pot of stew would be made on a cold day, often with a ham hock or other smoked meat to add a rich, savory flavor. This wasn't a fancy dish, it was a community dish. A woman might cook a large pot and share it with her neighbors or family members who had just come in from working the fields. The simplicity of the ingredients belied the depth of the flavor and the love that went into every spoonful. 17. Black pudding stew. Now we come to a tradition that has almost completely faded from the American culinary landscape. Black pudding stew was a dish that showcased the ultimate form of no waste. After a hog was butchered, the blood was collected and mixed with cornmeal, spices, and sometimes bits of meat to form a type of blood sausage, or pudding. This was then cooked into a thick, nourishing stew. While the idea might be difficult for many of us to grasp today, it was a vital part of a food system that honored the animal and used every part to provide sustenance. It's a powerful and somber reminder of a time when every ingredient had to be stretched as far as it could go. 18. Sweet tea and cornbread. Finally, we have a pairing that is more than just a meal, it's a feeling. Sweet tea and cornbread. This wasn't a formal recipe, but a simple, almost sacred meal, especially for children. After coming in from a long day of playing or working, a bowl of cornbread crumbled into a glass of ice-cold sweet tea was a simple, delicious way to cool down and get a quick meal. The cornbread would soak up the tea, softening into a refreshing, slightly sweet and savory mush. It was a dish of pure comfort, a taste of a loving memory passed down through generations. It reminds us that the most powerful food traditions are often the simplest ones. 19. Molasses stack cake. The molasses stack cake was the centerpiece of old-time gatherings and community meals. It was a dessert built on patience, thin layers of spiced cake stacked high, each brushed with sweet, sticky molasses or apple preserves. Families often baked just one layer each, bringing it to church suppers or celebrations, where the layers were assembled into a towering cake. Its flavor deepened as it rested, the molasses soaking through the tender crumb, marrying sweetness with warmth. For many African American families, this cake wasn't about indulgence. It was about unity and togetherness. A slice meant sharing stories, passing traditions, and savoring a rare treat in days when sugar was precious. Grandparents remembered its dark richness as a taste of joy after hard labor, a symbol of community spirit. Eating molasses stack cake today is like stepping back into a time when food was woven tightly with love, patience, and fellowship. 20. Fatback and greens. Fatback and greens carried the soul of survival cooking. A simple pot of collard, turnip, or mustard greens was transformed into a rich, flavorful dish when simmered with strips of cured fatback. Slowly cooked until tender, the greens took on a smoky, savory depth that filled kitchens with an unmistakable aroma. This dish was often stretched to feed large families, paired with cornbread, and eaten straight from the pot on long evenings after work in the fields. For grandparents, fatback and greens were not just nourishment. They were comfort, a reminder that even the humblest ingredients could create a feast. It represented resilience, ingenuity, and the ability to craft flavor from what little was available. Today, the memory of fatback and greens lives on in Sunday dinners and family reunions, carrying with it the legacy of resourcefulness and the warmth of kitchens that always made room for one more plate.